Welcome to Talmudic Treasures. Today we're learning Nedarim, page 88, which discusses the laws of a person who kills accidentally. And he wasn't paying attention. As the Torah discusses, this person is in a forest chopping wood, and there's someone else that's walking by, and he does not see him, or as the Torah says, below rois. In that situation, because he couldn't see him or he didn't notice him while he was chopping wood, and unfortunately the blade flew off and it killed that person in a downward motion, the law is that that person has to go to one of the cities of refuge, and there he has to stay for an extended period of time until the passing of the high priest in the time of the temple. This is something which is explicitly mentioned in the Torah more than once. Now, the question is, what happens if the person that was chopping the wood knew 100%, he saw the person, and he was still chopping wood, and this happened? So, according to the reading of the verse, it's only because he didn't see him. He wasn't paying attention. So he's not entirely innocent, especially in a forest where people can freely walk through. He should have anticipated that there's a possibility that someone would, in fact, be going in that basic vicinity. So he wasn't careful. But he isn't considered to be entirely guilty for having actually murdered someone because, again, he didn't see. On this, the Talmud wonders, what if the person who is engaged, not necessarily chopping wood, but the person who kills the other, that person is blind? What is the status? Do we say that a blind person also has to go to a city of refuge? So the way that the Talmud understands is it looks at a verse and says, why does it tell us these words without seeing? Now the inference is, it's only in this one time this person just wasn't paying attention, which implies that typically he could see, which comes to exclude maybe someone who is blind, who never is able to see. And therefore, because of that, this extra language in the verse is telling you that a blind person who would kill is not going to be punished by going to a city of refuge. And perhaps the idea behind this is maybe that individual is less guilty because he didn't ever have the ability to see, and therefore for that reason, we're not going to hold him as responsible. Yet there is another interpretation. We know that when it comes to going into a forest, anyone can be in there. Now that includes someone who could see all the time, or someone who is blind. And therefore, since a forest is a place where everyone can go, including someone who is blind, so the fact that it says these words, again in Hebrew, below rois, without seeing, that comes to either include someone blind or exclude them. Now, if we already know that a blind person would be included by just the words of forest, because he also can go into the forest, you wouldn't need these words also to tell you to include the blind person. So therefore, the fact that it says this must be coming actually to exclude a blind person. That's one possible interpretation. Now, there is actually another way of looking at it based on a different language. But based on this, we see the thought process of the Talmud, of analyzing various verses, and based on those extra words, it must be coming to teach us something. The Torah does not have extra words for no purpose. And again, if in fact it can be derived through logic, then those extra words must be coming to maybe tell you something which is against what would normally be thought. And therefore, again, through the studying and analytical reasoning of the Talmud, one is able to reach conclusions based on the entire picture of what's being discussed.